Good morning, happy Friday. Good morning, happy Friday. Naima Singletary here with The Power to Lead, where I speak to melanin messengers who are born to change the world through speaking and writing and are clear that they are meant to do so and to become very rich financially and otherwise. Likely so they can fund their big vision. So they can fund their big vision. Happy Friday, baby. Happy Friday. Hey. So there was no gym for me today. I went 3 days in a row and I decided I was going to break today and go tomorrow. My body was saying, give us a little break. It was saying, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking care of us. And it has been so much easier for me to get out of bed at before 6. Because remember, I told you guys that my goal for the entire 2019 is to be out of bed by 6. So meaning like when the clock strikes 6 a.m. in the morning, I'm already out of the bed. That is my goal. And I have done it every single day except for one day. And the one day that I didn't do it is because I forgot to set my alarm. And I woke up at I remember I looked at the clock and I felt, you know how you wake up and you feel like it's later than normal? And I woke up and the clock said 7:23. And I was like, how the hell did oh look, I just got a notification. Sometimes this happens where I get notification that I'm live. It doesn't happen all the time, but it just happened. So for the last 7 minutes, I've been feeling like something is in my eye, but then I have this mascara and I don't want to rub because then the mascara is gonna smear. So I might be doing a lot of this, clearing throughout the show. Excuse me. So let me tell you how important today is. First of all, every topic is important, right? You decide how important it is to you. To me, it's important because I'm talking about it. But today is so important that it was actually last Monday's show. Today's gift to you, which is activating suppressed joy for supernatural growth. Activating suppressed joy for supernatural growth. This was not this past Monday, but the Monday before. It was that topic, but I accidentally deleted. It was a freaking awesome show. I remember I was so lit up. It was after class and that duplicate thing happened. Remember I told you about the duplicates and all that? So, I said, I got to do this again for my people. It is that important about the joy. See, this is one of those quiet, it's like not underdog, but it's like, joy is an underestimated superpower. It's an underestimated secret ingredient. And see, okay, anyway, so there's that. So let me go into the story of this because so much happens in the story of our lives, right? It's where we get, things happen and there's a story around it. And then for those of us who are very conscious, who are very much paying attention to our lives, who are doing life on purpose, God has these situations happen in your life for you to get the medicine from it so that then you become higher and you're prepared for the next level that God has for you. So your job is to be present in all things, good and bad, because we love to be like, oh, I'm blessed. Look at what God did for me. I have this, and right? But then when the bad stuff happens, we kind of feel like it's the devil, when actually that's God. Remember, everything is happening for you, not to you. Remember, I told you to put that on your board. Everything is happening for you, not to you. Everything. So then when the bad stuff happens, it's like, but really, we typically learn our lessons. Unfortunately, too many of us are just wired that way. We learn from pain much more than we do from joy and goodness and you da. So anyway, in 2020, gosh, so much has happened. I gotta remember all the time. 2013, yep, 2013. It was like March, April-ish. I went to this conference. And I've talked about this conference before in different contexts because this conference has had so many things happened and so many stories has come out of this. So you've heard me reference this conference many, many times. It was the first time I had paid what I felt to be a lot of money to go to a business event. So I paid $1,000 It was this multiple seven-figure coach who I respected, still do. And at the time I was living in California, and not only was the admission to get in $1,000, I had to fly to, I think it was Orlando. Yeah, I know Orlando, right? So then I had to fly to Orlando. I had to do a hotel because it was a 3-day event. So I had to do hotel for 3 nights and then all the other stuff, food, ground transportation, blah, blah. So I'm breaking the bank to go to this event. But you know how something in your spirit just tells you to do something? Like if somebody says why you're going, you don't have like this well thought out answer for why you're doing it. You just have it in your spirit that you're meant to be there. That's how I felt about this event. Felt about this event. Felt about this event. So I remember it was such a riveting. That's the thing about growth and transformation. It rips and pulls and all that. So I go to this event, and I remember it was at the Westin Hotel. And I remember like you walked through the doors and then you had to like veer off and go like back, and they had their whole setup. And I remember being like, ooh, because there were these beautiful floral arrangements at the check-in table. And they had these, like behind the people who were checking us in were these beautiful like display signs with the name of the event. And then you had to go around a corridor. And then I remember it was just like this vibration of, right, there were like 350 women there. And I'm like, you know, remember I got into the transformation space in 2011. So I'm still kind of like rookie, like, you know, I'm feeling kind of like excited, but small, you know. And I see these women here. Most of them are like, look like they're in their 40s, maybe late 40s. And I'm like excited, but like, oh shit, this is kind of like, whoa. And I remember the event started, but even before it started, it was like the atmosphere for highness had been started to be started. Like I didn't realize it at the time, I just felt it. But now that I'm years later and look in retrospect, I can see the intentionality behind creating a space of highness. It's so important to create spaces of highness for people's breakthroughs. And so she had a DJ, and the DJ was playing this high vibrational music, and then she came out and there was this like display, and she was dressed gorgeously. And then there was, throughout the day there were, and remember this was 3 full days, so we were like there from 9 a.m. to like 6 p.m. 7 p.m. all 3 days. And so there was the music, and then there was this high vibration language, which is why I've so often recommended Conscious Language as a book, and why you are all like on here you see me doing this thing with like, okay, I retract the word need or not saying want, and right, because the power of language, it's so important. And so she was using this high vibration language, which is the language of creation, like the language of ascended creation. For those of us who are really on the path, like this, the Harriet Tubman path. You know, I really want you guys to do your research around Harriet Tubman, because she relied strictly on communication with spirit. There was no like, you know, the kind of God that like white people were telling black people to use. And there was none of this like, you know, the typical, like, I'm not even trying to get into that conversation really. It was really, is my, so important here. And I know it now. I'm living it now. I'm living it in a way now that I never have before, because I lived long enough to know that it's the one reliable source. And so Harriet Tubman, which is what I want you to do, is, you know, relying on spirit and then harnessing language to create that which is yet seen, using language, highness of language to create that which is yet seen, that which seems so outrageous. Like my world-class massive chateau is of a whole other dimension. Every time I talk about it, every time I think about it, every time I draft it, I'm creating it. So whether it takes me 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's the meticulousness and the paying attention to the way I speak of it, the way I feel of it. Feel, you notice feel of it, right? And this is for you too. So she was using this high language, right? And she's on stage and she's like, she's not saying highness, but she's like, that's the language that she's using. And it's like waking everybody up in the audience. And then every now and again, she'll have us hug each other. Very intentional about us hugging each other. So folks are getting activated through the touch, right? And then we would have a break, and then the DJ would play this high vibration music, right? So everything is being lifted and being remained in a lifted state, right? And so we're all in this vortex. And at the time, I'm not aware of what's going on. I'm just feeling it. So that's day one, right? Can you even feel it as I talk about it, right? Imagine being in a room with 350 people saturated with this highness, just running through the room, running through the room. And it's one of the reasons why I design things the way I do. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. This is why investing is so important. This is why highness is so important. This is why following spirit is so important. Like, there's so many nuggets of wisdom in this story if you are high enough in perception to even receive it. So that's day one. Day two, same thing. Highness of language. There's the hugs. There's the music. And then by this time, we've gotten to know each other because we've had lunch. Some of us have had lunch with each other the first day. So then we sleep on it, and then we see each other the second day. So there's a little bit more comfort in the room, right? So people start to put down their masks a little bit more. People start to relax a little bit more. And then the same thing happens, right? And I remember I had a breakthrough, like my spirit just, there was a, like the whole, right? And what I did, and I remember I wrote on Facebook specifically, which is what triggered me even putting this here with you now, is that I put on Facebook, this was in 2013, I said, I just broke a joy limit that I didn't even know I had. I just broke a joy limit, like the lid just came off. So it's kind of like the way we push things down over time. You know, I talked about this, I think it was last week maybe, where I talked about re-engaging or reactivating the courage to connect. Oh, it was like exercising the faith and courage to reconnect again. And I talked about how when we get like punched by life, and we get punched multiple times, and you know, we experience heartbreak and pain and betrayal and all that. And then we start to put the lid on what we used to be so much more expanded and joyful. We put the lid on things. And I had put the lid on some things. Like, I was still like rookie, but I had still been in the transformation space for a couple years. And by that time I had worked so hard, and I had bumped my head up against, and I remember I had been praying before I found out about this event. I had been praying like, God, where am I going? What's going on here? Because I had felt like I was going in these circles. So I didn't know up to that point that I had a joy limit, that I had pushed some things down. So boom, I put that on Facebook that I broke a joy limit that I didn't have. So I remember I got back to my day, and it was like so high vibrational, and it was just like, oh my God, right? You know, you go to these events and it's like, breakthrough! So it was like that. And then so I went back to my hotel room and see, there's some analogies I want to give here. Because in the spiritual world, anything that can pendulum this way automatically opens up the capacity to swing this. I hope you can, I know it might be difficult to see within the camera frame, but anything that swings this way must naturally have the capacity and will open up the channels to swing that way. Okay, so I really mean like that way, but I'm just trying to show you within the frame, right? So by the second day, I had opened up the door and the channel this way, like quantum. There was a quantum opening in the spiritual plane, okay? So therefore, I didn't know this at the time. I have advanced exponentially since then in my understanding and my experience. So what I did and didn't know I did at the time was I also opened up the channels to swing this away. So what happened, right? Now this is where the chipping away, the burning, the refinement of self comes into place. I went back to my hotel room. Hi, it's the second day, right? I broke a joy limit I didn't know I had. Life is good. I'm blessed and right? All of that. I go back to my hotel room by myself. And I'm excited. I'm just, settling in, taking off my jacket. Oh, I'm excited, right? And I sit on the bed and I'm just kind of like, and literally like this wave, because I brought it in. I didn't know that's what I did at the time. I brought it in, right? Because I had swung all the way this way. And I had been praying for this. But I didn't know what I didn't know. So this intensity just came over me out of left field. And all of a sudden I just what's going on? Oh my God, who are you? What's happening here? This was out of a movie, okay? And it's what? And I started pacing around the room. I remember I started pacing around the room. And it's a wonder I didn't leave the room, because when I think in retrospect, the intensity in the room was whoosh, whoosh. It was so I started pacing the room, and then it was and then I just started crying. And nothing was making sense. And I was pacing the room and I just started audibly crying. And I'm crying. And then I remember I go to the mirror. My eyes are bloodshot red and I'm just crying. And I'm just what's going on? But I don't call anybody. It was in the moment, it was so weird. I didn't leave the room. I didn't call anybody. It was this other dimensional vortex was happening. And I remember I just sat down and I was just and then I laid down and then I kept crying. And I cried until I fell asleep. And I remember I fell asleep with everything on, all my clothes on. And I fell asleep and then I woke up in the middle of the night and took off everything. And I was what the fuck happened to me? What is going on here? So I remember the third and final day of this 3-day event, I went there with this kind of 180 from how I felt when I left that second day. And what it really was is it was the beginning of descent for me. I had opened up see, you guys, this is such a blessing that I didn't see at the time, and I can see it so clearly now. Everything that I had been running from up until that time, everything that I had been afraid of up until that time, when I opened up the joy channel, I opened up so many other channels. This is why activating joy causes growth. Now, you might not launch off immediately like I didn't launch off. And I'm not even saying this is going to happen to you the way it's happened with me. I'm saying that when you activate suppressed joy, you open up the world, and everything that must die, that must be transformed, healed, will happen for you. So I descended, you guys, literally that third day, at the end of that third day, the guy that I was dating, I called him and broke up with him right there over the phone after the third day. That next month, or sometime very soon thereafter, I don't remember the chronology of that, but sometime soon thereafter, I literally cut off all of my hair. When I say all of my hair, I mean, I this much hair left. I cut off all of my hair. I have pictures. All of my hair was gone. Up until that time, I had been doing business coaching. Dwindled, let it go. Made the announcement on Facebook that I was officially doing no more business coaching. And that depression you guys have heard me talk about, that I have told in 7,521 stories about that extreme depression that I went to, that's exactly what happened. So much of who I am today is able to be who I am because of the burn that I had in 2013, right? And that's just some of it. Like, that's just some of it. But that was the longest up to date. That has been, what would I say? The deepest burn, or like, there's a certain quality of the burn, you know? Like, so a lot of the things that a lot of humans just aren't going to learn about themselves, I got a chance to learn. Like, it's because of what I went through that helps me to know that God has really selected me and I have really surrendered, because I don't know too many people who are really walking the path. Like, a lot of us, anyway, I don't need to go into all that. That's an intimate thing, and perhaps if you and I get close enough, we can talk about that. But thereafter, once I had opened up the Joy channel and then sucked open, it's like opened up the door and then sucked in like the whole universe, right? And then all your channels open up, right? And then everything that's clutter gets cleared out. And so that's what I was going through in that, the darkness is like, you know, people think that they're, you know, in darkness, people think it's bad and they're dying, but it's, you're planted, right? You're excavating, you're going into the underworld and really exploring things that you cannot safely explore here on this dense third dimension of, you know, fear and time and right? And so I know that world very well. I love navigating that world. You know, there's everything and nothing there. Like, there's zero judgment. There's a kind of safety there, but not the kind of safety where it's like walking on eggshells. It's like, because everything is allowed, you're safe, right? There's no hiding. There's everything is allowed. Like, real safety is there, real integrity is there, real, you know, I really love the underworld. You know, most people can't handle that because they're so third dimensional in their thinking. They're so binary in their thinking. They're so fear-based in their thinking. So that's a whole other video. That's a whole other series. That's a whole other workshop. That's a whole other, you know, program conversation, you know, the underworld and navigating it, for the wisdom of it, for really keeping one foot there. So as you come out here into the world and you're dealing with humans and their dualities, that you can deal with humans, the ugliness of humans and the outrageous benevolence of humans, you know, and everything in between, because humans can be so fucking fucked up and brutal, and yet we can fucking change the world. Like, and you being able to gracefully navigate that, right? While you're birthing something that doesn't exist, that's opposing the status quo, that's ruffling feathers, that's causing uncomfortability, you see why activating suppressed joy is so powerful, because it opens you up to be able to, with your surrender, right? Like, it opens, but it doesn't mean you're going to respond to the opening, right? Because everything is happening for you. And so the door opens when you activate that suppressed joy, and then like the whole world, the whole universe like drops in your lap. Thank God. And then after I cleared enough in that 7 months of depression, and I really surrendered, then, okay, God said, now you're ready. I said, and I was ready. I said, okay, God, I don't want to be here if I'm not doing the work. Remember, I said that was the deal. Like, I literally, like, I want to die. I don't want to be here if I'm not doing the work I was made to do. Like, I had seen enough and known enough and right down in there to know that all this is a circus. Like, people getting their feeling hurt is a circus. Like, if my feelings get hurt, that's a circus. That's a distraction. And it's really a call to highness. You know, Facebook, like, we used it, but all this stuff is a distraction. Like, it's just, this is nice, but it's a distraction, right? It's, my vanity is a distraction. It's like I get all cute here because I already know that your third dimensional mind will have a hard time receiving me if I just show up here with my hair undone and no makeup, right? So I do that for the navigation of the third dimension, not because, you know, it actually feeds the thing that really needs to be fed. and engages the work that's really necessary to be engaged. So, Heal Sex Shame was born after that. Heal Sex Shame was born. I was reborn because I'm already at 25 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up here. Because I was reborn, activating that suppressed joy, I could birth Heal Sex Shame. Heal Sex. You know how many women's lives were positively impacted? Like women who I never met, women who would email me, women who would inbox me on social media, the number of women who I worked with, the look in women's eyes. I had a client who contacted me and was like, when I heard you talk about sexual trauma in such a fearless way, I knew I had to talk to you. I could not talk fearlessly about healing sexual trauma before I activated that joy and had gone through all that cleanup and all that dark that I needed to go through. I could not have talked publicly and fearlessly about sexual trauma. So activating suppressed joy causes supernatural growth. I know it for sure, and I want that for you. Okay? So your homework is to go find high vibrational experiences that cause you to fucking take the lid off of shit. That cause you to, that cause you to lose your mind. Lose your mind. So it's a joy to be here with you. It is such a joy to be here with you. I will be back here on Monday. Please share this. Share this. Be generous and share this. I'm at 27 minutes now, so you have a great weekend. The week's topics will be up by Monday morning, and I'll see you on Monday.